diving in to pruning your list. This is just as important as segmenting, and it is the hardest one to do because it's kind of counterintuitive if you don't really understand why you're doing it. So pruning your list is like pruning a tree. You cut off branches so new things can grow and it can be healthier. What that means is cutting out people from your email lists. I was once at a church that our email list had about 150,000 emails on it. It was incredible. Huge list, right? Well, the church wasn't that big. And what we began to find out when we actually started using that list is that many of those had moved on to different churches. Many of those had passed away. Many of those had didn't want anything to do with us or whatever the case. Many of those just came the one time 10 years ago and are wondering why we're still emailing them, So from that point on, we started the process of pruning our list. The first thing you need to do before anything else, cut out bad email addresses. If you have a service like MailChimp or Constant Contact, these are what's called bounced email addresses. And MailChimp kind of helps you with that automatically. I'm not sure if Constant Contact or any others do, but they do automatically. But when you send an email, there's always a report of successful sends, bounced emails, or unsubscribed. And so the successful sends are great. Just leave them, let them be for now. The bad email addresses or the bounced email addresses are ones that either they were misspelled, the email address has been discontinued, or whatever the case is. There could be 100 different reasons. The first thing you need to do, check the email address that you've inputted. So, for instance, if you have john@yahoo.com. Well, you misspelled Yahoo. You only put one O instead of two. Okay, fix that. Put in the extra O. See if it works. If it bounces again, then you know it's a bad email address. That being said, there are some email addresses that you can't find any typos or you don't know what the typo would be. Like maybe their name is misspelled, but you don't know how to actually spell their name. Well, don't try different iterations. Just cut the email address. That's all you need to do. And the biggest reason for that is those email providers like MailChimp do not like those bounced email addresses. What that does is it tells those servers like Gmail or Yahoo or any other server, it tells those servers that you are trying to send to email addresses that you don't actually have. And then it will, those email service providers will say, okay, you're not sending valid emails. We're going to maybe send you to junk mail from now on or for a while. It can have a very negative impact on your ability to send emails, but it also crowds up your email lists. And most of the time, these service providers charge based on how many contacts you have. Having a big list is great, but having a big list full of bad email address is useless and just wasting time and money and potentially hurting you in the long run. So cut out those bad email addresses, anything that's bounced. The next thing that goes along with that is if people have unsubscribed, if they've clicked the unsubscribe button, just get rid of them. Now, a caveat to that is if you have segmented your lists correctly, you have multiple lists going multiple directions, and let's say somebody is getting emails about students and emails about events, but they've unsubscribed to the student emails but not the event emails. Don't delete them from your database. Just make sure they're not receiving those student emails anymore. That just means that particular route of content they no longer want. So that's okay. Don't send it to them. If they don't want it, you don't want to give it. But keep them on the event email list until they unsubscribe from that or tell you, I don't want this anymore. So cut out the bad addresses, the ones that bounce, and cut out the ones that have unsubscribed. If you can purge those, if that was the only thing they were subscribed to, just go ahead and get rid of them. You don't need them. The next thing is look at their history. So every once in a while you need to go, and this might be really hard up front because you have a lot. If you have a lot of email addresses, it's going to be kind of a tedious process. But again, companies like MailChimp and Constant Contact and those other companies, they are very good about giving you reports. And so this is usually a report that you can find. But go into your contacts and see their history. Have they interacted with your emails at all? Have they opened them in the past 6 months? Have they clicked any buttons in the past 6 months? Whatever the case is, my suggestion is if they have not opened in the past 6 months and you've sent consistent emails, go ahead and cut them from your list. Or here's another option. This is an okay option. The only problem with it is if they haven't opened it in 6 months, there's a good chance it won't get opened again. You can send them an email saying, hey, we noticed that you haven't been really engaging with our stuff. Is there anything we could do better? Or would you like to unsubscribe? Give them the option. Actually, that will usually go a long way with people. If they do open it, they'll be like, oh, these people really do care about giving me good stuff. So they'll either start engaging or say, no, I actually don't really want this anymore. I'm going to unsubscribe. That's okay. That's what you want. You want it either way. Whatever they want is what you want. If they haven't opened it for 6 months, if they haven't done anything with it, let's say they've opened it, but they don't click any buttons ever, or they never interact with the content, you can also send them that same email like, hey, we noticed, what else interests you? We noticed that you haven't been really interacting, but here's a list of other things that might interest you as well. And also, do you want to keep getting these emails? Have the buttons in there. Let them pick what they want and then go from there. And then finally, make sure you don't cut people from everything when there's something working. That goes back to what I said earlier, that you don't want to cut them from every list if they only unsubscribe from one. The same goes for the engagement. If they're not engaging with one list, but they are engaging with another, don't cut them from all of it. Just cut them from that one. And I would even go so far as to say if they are not opening emails from one list, but they are opening emails from another, just go ahead and cut them from the other and let them keep engaging with the content that they are currently enjoying. Okay, this is the last one. So we've had build your list, segment your list, and prune your list. Finally, curate your list. And so this is kind of the heart of email marketing in general, but also the heart of email marketing for churches. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but I want you guys to really latch onto this. This is going to be super important. If you haven't heard any of the other ones, this is what I want you to get out of this. Number one, send helpful content. Stuff that's going to help them in their everyday lives, and this is based on all that segmentation you've already done. So if you look at their demographics and in fact, you can, even with church marketing and stuff, there are demographics companies that will know, hey, this amount of your community is likely to have have a marriage in need. This amount of your community is likely to have a drug addiction. And so you can now don't assume things on people, but you can kind of get the idea of, hey, our community typically needs this. Let's start pushing out content that's going to help with these issues. And you'll hit a broader audience with that. But also based on demographics and interests, what they really are interested in, what they really want. Send them content that is going to help them get there, that's going to help them reach their goals. If they want to start serving in students, send them content about reaching students, about discipling them. Send them content about how can you help the next generation. And same thing goes for any other context. If you have an interest or you have a demographic, send them content that is going to help them with their lives, that is going to make their lives better. The second thing is send engaging content. You want to send content that they're going to enjoy reading, that they're going to want to be a part of. Content with videos like, hey, you're going to love this video, check it out. Whatever it is, send them content that is engaging, that's going to make them want to interact with you. Also, that is going to make them want to take another step. So there's two different aspects. Engaging content is just life-giving. I love this. I love reading it. It's like scrolling through Instagram, or TikTok is one of my favorites right now. Scrolling through TikTok, I love this type of video. I'm going to heart it. I'm going to keep watching this type of video. That's engaging content. But then you've also got the content that's like, hey, this is something that I need to do next. You know that based on your segmentation. And so take that segmentation part and say, based on everything we've talked about, you need to do this. This is your next step. Do you want to do this? Click here if you want to. That's also a type of engaging content. But just make sure you're always sending them something helpful or something engaging. A lot of times those two can be together and mix. The third thing is send quality content. Don't ever send things just because you have to. Like, oh, I got to get an email out this week. It doesn't matter. Let's just throw this together. Don't throw things together. People can see that. People will understand that. And when you throw things together and when it's not quality, people will no longer engage with it. Now, I'm not saying quality is different for everybody. I'm not trying to tell you that if you do a video, like let's say you do a video about somebody who got baptized and they want to tell their story. I'm not saying you have to have cinema quality or you have to have the highest end production and all this. That's not what I'm saying. But it does need to look like there was effort put into it. It does need to have an engaging story. It does need to be engaging and helpful. Quality content. Don't just throw something together and put it out there. I mean, if you've typed out a quick email that really doesn't have much to do with anything and has a ton of typos in it and the picture is really pixelated and stuff, people can see that and say, they didn't put any thought into this. Let's forget it. I'm not going to, so it has to be helpful, has to be engaging, has to be quality. And the final thing is, again, this hits heavily on that segmentation, send relevant content. Relevant to their lives, relevant to their interests, relevant to their demographics, relevant to where you met them, where you obtained their stuff, and relevant to your interactions. Make sure that the content that they're receiving pertains to them as much as possible. Again, there are generic lists like newsletter lists where you're going to have all these different events going on in your church, and not everything is going to pertain to everybody, but make sure that the majority of what you're sending is relevant completely as much as possible to the person. Okay, those are the things. Build your list, segment your list, prune your list, and curate your list. Next week, I'm going to start talking about creating a content machine, how you can build content and get it all out there. All right, see you then.